The last call. My son Liam died 15 years ago in a car crash. I buried the pain, moved houses, changed my number. But last night at 3 a.m. My name is Olivia. I turned 61 last April, but some mornings I wake up and swear I'm still 38. The age I was when the world stopped spinning. That was the year my son Liam died. 22 years old, fresh out of college with a degree in environmental science, and a grin that could melt winter. He was driving home on a rainy October night to surprise me with his famous burnt pancakes. His Sunday ritual since he was 12 and discovered the joy of flipping batter too high. A drunk driver crossed the median on Highway 26 outside Portland. The police said Liam never saw the truck. I never saw him again, except in the nightmares that jolt me awake at 3 a.m. The exact hour the call came 15 years later. I buried the pain the way people bury bodies. 6 feet under with a stone on top so it can't crawl out. I sold the house on Maple Lane where his laughter still bounced off the kitchen tiles. I changed my phone number, my city, my name on the mailbox. I became Mrs. Olivia, to the neighbors in the quiet cul-de-sac of Willow Creek. A widow who kept her curtains drawn and her memories locked in a cedar box I swore I'd never open. My husband Michael had died of a heart attack 7 years before Liam, so it was just me and the silence. I told myself silence was safer than screaming. But last night at exactly 3 a.m. my phone rang. I was awake, of course. Sleep had been a stranger since 2010. The screen glowed in the dark like a ghost. Liam Mobile. The number I had deleted from every contact, every cloud backup, every scrap of paper I burned in the backyard the day after the funeral. My thumb hovered over the green button. A glitch, I told myself. Some cruel rerouting of signals through satellites that didn't know he was dead. My heart hammered so hard I felt it in my teeth. I answered. Mom, it's me. The voice was his, soft, a little husky from the cold he always caught in October. The same cadence he used when he called from dorm rooms to ask if I still kept the good hot chocolate in the blue tin above the fridge. My hand shook so violently the phone slipped from my fingers and clattered onto the hardwood. I caught it against my chest, the screen cold against my nightgown. Liam. My whisper cracked like thin ice on a puddle. Baby, you're gone. Static hissed through the speaker, then cleared. I heard his laugh, the goofy, breathy one that meant he was about to tell a terrible joke or admit he'd shrunk another sweater in the dryer. I know, Mom. But you're not alone. You need to stop waiting for me. The line crackled like a fire catching. I pressed the phone harder to my ear, as if I could pull him through the speaker and into the room where his soccer trophies still gathered dust on the shelf I couldn't bear to pack away. Please don't hang up, I begged. Tears burned trails down my cheeks and soaked the collar of my robe. Please, Liam, just talk to me. One last thing, he said, gentle as always, the way he spoke when he tucked me in after Michael's funeral because I couldn't stop shaking. Check the attic. It's my gift for you. Click. The screen went black. I stared at it for a full minute, waiting for the joke to end, for the dream to dissolve into the familiar ache of waking. It didn't. My legs carried me out of bed before my brain caught up. I threw on my robe, faded blue flannel, the one he used to steal because it smelled like lavender detergent and home, and ran upstairs, bare feet slapping cold wood. The attic door stuck the way it always had, warped from years of humidity and neglect. I hadn't opened it since we moved into this house 8 years ago. A smaller place with fewer corners for memories to hide. I yanked harder. The hinges screamed. Dust motes danced in the flashlight beam from my phone. The air smelled of cedar and old Christmas tinsel. I swept the light across boxes labeled in my own neat handwriting. Michael's books, Liam's trophies, do not open. Under a sagging box of ornaments, glass balls Liam painted with glitter glue when he was 9, lay a small cedar chest no bigger than a shoebox. My name was carved on the lid in Liam's teenage scrawl, the letters uneven from the pocket knife he wasn't supposed to carry. Oh. Open when you forget how to smile. My fingers trembled so badly I could barely lift the lid. Inside was a letter, yellowed but crisp, folded with the precision he used for origami cranes. The date at the top stopped my breath. October 14, 2010, 1 week before the crash. Mom, if you're reading this, I messed up the timing again. I'm writing on the porch while you pretend to read the newspaper but really watch me like I'm still 10. You do that, you know. I see it. Your eyes get soft and scared at the same time, like you're afraid I'll vanish if you blink. I won't. Not forever. If you ever feel alone, remember this. Love never dies. It just changes phones. I'll always find a way to call you. Check the Polaroid. Love, your burnt pancake chef. Liam taped to the letter was a photograph. Me and him, arms around each other, smiling the way we did the day he graduated. But it wasn't the old one from the ceremony, the one I kept in a frame on my nightstand. This was new. Taken tonight. Same robe, same tears streaking my cheeks, same phone pressed to my ear. The timestamp in the corner glowed white. 3 hours 2 minutes and 17 seconds. Someone, or something, had been in the room with me while I spoke to my dead son. I don't know how long I sat on the attic floor, knees drawn to my chest, staring at the impossible image. The cedar chest smelled faintly of the pine candles Liam loved. My tears dripped onto the Polaroid, smearing the ink. The attic window was painted shut since 1998. No footprints in the dust except mine. I checked the stairs, locked from the inside. I checked the locks on every door, every window. Nothing. At 9 a.m., I called the phone company. The representative sounded 12, her voice chipper over the hold music of generic pop. Ma'am, that number hasn't been active since 2010. It was reassigned in 2013 to a burner in Seattle, then decommissioned entirely in 2015. I asked for the call log. No incoming calls at 3 a.m., she said. Your phone shows zero activity between 2:57 and 3:04. I hung up and stared at the screen. The call was there, plain as day. Liam Vrem. 1 minute 42 seconds. I drove to the old house on Maple Lane. It had been sold twice since I left, now painted a garish yellow that hurt my eyes. The new owners, a young couple with a toddler clinging to the wife's leg, let me stand in the driveway. The porch swing was gone. So was the burn mark on the kitchen counter where Liam tried to make grilled cheese at age 7 and nearly set the curtains on fire. But the attic ladder still creaked in the same place, the third rung from the top. Nothing up there but mouse nests and insulation, the husband said, shifting the toddler to his hip. I thanked him and left before I started crying in front of strangers. Back home, I searched the cedar chest again. Beneath the letter was a second envelope, sealed with red wax the color of the roses Liam planted along the fence the summer he turned 16. Inside, a brass key heavy and cold, and a note in Liam's handwriting, the loops of his Y's still boyish. Key to the place where memories keep their shoes. Use it when you're ready to stop running. No address. No map. Just the key and the faint scent of pine. I posted the Polaroid on a grief forum at 2 a.m. Caption. Explain this. The replies were kind but useless. Grief hallucinations, deepfakes, early onset dementia. One private message stood out. The sender's avatar, a grainy photo of a cassette tape. Olivia? Liam's mom? Meet me. I knew your son. E. The profile was blank except for a location. The Archive, 3rd and Pine, tomorrow 3 p.m. The Archive was a narrow brick building wedged between a vape shop and a pawn store that smelled of desperation and brass polish. Inside smelled of old paper and ozone, the air thick with the hum of fluorescent lights. A woman in her 40s waited at a table stacked with manila folders and reel-to-reel tapes. Her badge read Elena Moreau, paranormal archivist. Her hair was dyed midnight blue, the roots showing silver. You kept his voicemail, she said without greeting. She slid a cassette tape across the table, the plastic cracked but intact. October 13, 2010. He left it for you but never sent it. My fingers trembled as I took the tape. How? Liam volunteered here senior year. Cataloging analog ghosts, voicemails, answering machine tapes, things people leave behind when they die suddenly. He said if anything happened to him, someone should deliver the message. He paid me $50 and a lifetime supply of burnt pancakes. She smiled and her eyes were wet. He was terrible at flipping them, but he never stopped trying. She pressed play on a dusty Walkman plugged into the wall with an extension cord that snaked across the floor like a lifeline. Liam's voice, tinny but unmistakable. Mom, if you're hearing this, I probably did something stupid like forget to check my oil. Don't be mad. I love you more than pancakes love syrup. Tell Dad his Thai collection is safe with me in heaven. And stop checking the attic for monsters. The only monster is the one that says you have to forget me. Elena wiped her eyes with the sleeve of her cardigan. He left coordinates. Said you'd need them when the phone rings. She handed me a slip of paper, the ink faded but legible. 45.5231 degrees north, 122.6765 degrees west. Forest Park. The trail where he proposed we scatter Michael's ashes after the heart attack in 2008. The place he called the mailbox between worlds. I hiked at dawn, brass key clenched in my fist until it left marks. The coordinates led to a hollow cedar stump Liam used to call the mailbox, because he hid notes there for his friends in high school. Inside was a metal tin rusted shut. I pried it open with a stick. Another Polaroid. Me at the trailhead. Timestamp 6 hours 14 minutes and 2 seconds. Minutes after I arrived. On the back in fresh Sharpie. Keep going, Mom. You're warmer than the pancakes. The trail looped deeper into the mossy green. The air thick with the smell of wet earth and Douglas fir. Every mile another tin. Another photo. Me tying my shoe at mile marker 2. Me crying at a viewpoint where the city spread out like a circuit board. Me whispering his name to the wind at a fallen log. Each timestamp minutes old. I was being followed, photographed, by something that knew my path before I walked it. Something that left no footprints, no breath on the air. My phone died halfway up the ridge. No signal, no battery, just the black mirror of the screen reflecting my terrified face. I kept walking. The final marker was a clearing with a circle of river stones Liam arranged when he was 15. The summer he read too much Tolkien and decided our backyard needed a hobbit door. In the center lay a rotary phone, the kind with a finger wheel and a cloth cord. Moss growing over the plastic like green veins. It was plugged into nothing, the cord disappearing into the stump. I lifted the receiver. The dial tone was steady, ancient. Mom. Liam's voice, clear as spring water through the handset. You found me. I sank to my knees in the damp earth, the phone cord pooling around me like spilled ink. How? Love doesn't need towers. Just a line. A pause, the kind he used when he was choosing his words carefully. I'm sorry I left the pancakes burning. I laughed through sobs that shook me like aftershocks. They were perfect. I have to go soon. But first, remember the key. I pulled it out, the brass warm now from my grip. Beside the phone was a tiny door in the stump, no bigger than a bread box, the wood carved with the same uneven O. The key fit perfectly. Inside. A stack of letters, one for every year since his death, the envelope sealed with wax the color of sunrise. The top one was dated today. Mom, you stopped running. I'm proud. The photos weren't to scare you. They were to prove I'm still watching. Not in a creepy way. In a love way. Tell the people you love that you love them. Starting with yourself. Yes, the robe looks good on you. Always did. The line went dead. The phone dissolved into sawdust that smelled of pine and cinnamon. The letters remained, solid and real in my shaking hands. I drove home at dusk, the sky bleeding orange over the suburbs. The cedar chest was open on the kitchen table where I'd left it. A new Polaroid sat on top. Me walking through the front door. Eyes red but smiling for the first time in years. Timestamp. 19 hours and 47 minutes. On the back in fresh ink, welcome home, Mom. I called my daughter Sophia, who hadn't spoken to me in 3 years after I missed her wedding in my fog of grief. The phone rang twice. Mom. Her voice was small, the way it sounded when she was 5 and lost her first tooth. I love you. I said before she could hang up. I'm sorry I disappeared. I was drowning, and I didn't know how to reach for you. Silence. Then the sound of her crying, the kind that comes from the bones. I thought you forgot us. Never. I told her about the call, the trail, the letters, the photos that shouldn't exist. She listened without interrupting, the way Liam used to when I read him bedtime stories long after he outgrew them. We made plans for pancakes on Sunday, burnt just the way he liked them. Sophia said she'd bring the kids. I said I'd wear the robe. 15 years after the crash, I still wake at 3 a.m. sometimes. The phone never rings again. But on the anniversary, a new Polaroid appears on the fridge, held by the magnet shaped like a soccer ball. Always me. Laughing with Sophia's children, planting roses along the fence, dancing in the kitchen to the old rock songs Michael loved. Timestamped minutes old. Love never dies. It just changes how it reaches us. Tell the people you love that you love them, before it's too late.